The sun bled orange across the dunes of Musaffah as the call to Maghrib prayer drifted from the minaret, thin and metallic over the clang of steel in the shipyard. Khalid Al-Mansoori stood on the catwalk of the half-built oil tanker, grease on his knuckles, sweat carving pale rivers through the dust on his neck. 28 years old, born in the shadow of these cranes, he had welded more plates than he had spoken words in his life. Below him, the Persian Gulf lapped black against the concrete slipway, carrying the smell of diesel and cardamom from the workers' canteen. Tonight was different. Tonight, the yard was quiet, except for the wind worrying the corrugated roofs. Khalid's phone buzzed in the pocket of his coveralls. A single message, no sender name. Dock 7, midnight, bring the drive. He stared at the screen until the backlight died. The drive, a thumb-sized slab of black plastic, was taped beneath the battery of his work locker. 3 weeks ago, a man in a white thobe and mirrored sunglasses had pressed it into Khalid's palm outside the Friday market. Blueprints, the man had said, for a better future. Khalid had laughed then, thinking it was a joke about overtime pay. He wasn't laughing now. He descended the ladder, boots ringing on metal. The yard's floodlights carved hard shadows between the skeletal hulls. Somewhere, a generator coughed and steadied. Khalid kept to the pools of darkness, past the paint store where the Filipino welders place cards under a single bulb, past the mosque trailer with its green carpet and plastic kettle. The air tasted of salt and hot iron. Dock 7 was the oldest part of the yard, a graveyard of abandoned projects. Rusted cranes leaned like drunks. A half-submerged barge listed in the water, its deck colonized by gulls. Khalid's pulse matched the slap of waves against concrete. He reached the end of the pier and waited, thumb worrying the edge of the drive in his pocket. Footsteps, light, deliberate. A woman stepped from behind a stack of containers. She wore a navy abaya, hood pulled low, but the sodium lights caught the sharp line of her cheekbones. "You're early," she said in Arabic, voice low, educated. "Dubai, not Abu Dhabi." "I don't like surprises," Khalid replied. She smiled without warmth. "Then you shouldn't have taken the job." She extended a gloved hand. "The drive." He hesitated. The blueprints weren't just schematics. He'd plugged the drive into the office computer during lunch, curiosity outweighing caution. What he saw made his stomach fold in on itself. Detailed plans for a drone carrier, stealth hull, AI targeting, launch tubes disguised as cargo cranes. Emirati registry, but the payment codes traced to a shell company in Ras Al Khaimah. Someone was building a private navy in the Gulf, and they wanted it kept quiet. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone who pays better than the shipyard." She glanced at her watch. "Tick-tock, Khalid." He pulled the drive free. For a moment, he considered hurling it into the water. Instead, he held it between them like a live wire. "I want double." Her laugh was soft. "You think this is a negotiation?" Headlights swept the pier. 2 SUVs, black, no plates. Doors opened. 4 men in dark jackets, moving with the economy of ex-military. The woman didn't flinch. "Looks like your ride's here," she said. Khalid bolted. He sprinted along the pier, boots skidding on diesel-slick concrete. Behind him, shouts in English and Arabic. A gunshot cracked, concrete chips stinging his cheek. He vaulted a chain-link fence, landed in the scrapyard where old propellers lay like giant flowers. The men fanned out, flashlights slicing the dark. Khalid crouched behind a stack of steel plate. His breath came in ragged bursts. The drive was still in his fist, edges cutting into his palm. He needed a plan. The office. There was a satellite uplink for sending progress reports. If he could upload the files, expose the project. Another shot. Closer. He ran. The yard was a maze of half-built vessels and scaffolding. He knew every shortcut, the drainage culvert under the pipe shop, the catwalk that crossed the dry dock. He lost them in the paint fumes of the blasting shed, emerged near the workers' dorms. The Filipino card players looked up, surprised. "Hide me," he gasped in broken Tagalog. They pointed to the laundry room without a word. He barricaded the door with a washing machine, heart hammering. The drive went into his mouth. He'd seen it in movies, teeth as the last vault. Through the porthole window, he watched flashlights sweep the courtyard. One of the men spoke into a radio, Arabic with a Levantine accent, not local. His phone buzzed again, unknown number. He answered. "Khalid?" The voice was familiar. His uncle Jassim, retired Navy, now a consultant for the Port Authority. "Where are you?" "Laundry room, Dock 7, they're after the drive." A pause. "Stay put, I'm coming." He wanted to believe it, but Jassim had been the one to recommend him for the overtime shift where the man in sunglasses approached him. Blood thickened, then curdled. The door handle rattled. Khalid pressed his back to the machine. The lock gave with a splintering crack. The first man through was broad, beard trimmed tight. He raised a pistol. Khalid kicked a bucket of bleach. The man slipped, cursed. Khalid charged, shoulder driving into the man's gut. They crashed into the dryers. The pistol skittered across the floor. Khalid scrambled for it, fingers closing on cold metal just as the second man appeared. "Drop it," the woman said from the doorway. She held a taser, prongs glowing blue. He froze. The drive was still in his mouth, bitter plastic against his tongue. Slowly, he raised his hands. The woman stepped forward, plucked the drive from his teeth with gloved fingers. "Thank you," she said. Uncle Jassim's voice crackled from the fallen radio. "Package secured?" The woman smiled. "Secured." Khalid's world tilted. Betrayal tasted worse than bleach. They zip-tied his wrists, marched them to the SUVs. The shipyard was silent again, as if nothing had happened. In the back seat, the woman sat beside him. "You could have walked away with 50,000 dirhams," she said. "Now you get a swim." The vehicles rolled toward the breakwater. Khalid stared at the passing cranes, each one a monument to his life's work. He thought of his mother's flat in Al Ain, the prayer beads she clicked while watching Turkish soaps. He thought of the girl in the canteen who smiled when he brought her extra dates. Small things, suddenly precious. At the end of the breakwater, they stopped. The woman opened the door. "Any last words?" Khalid spat blood. "The files, I sent them." Her smile faltered. "During lunch," he said, encrypted burst to a journalist in London. "If I don't check in every hour, it goes public." She stared. The bearded man checked his phone, face tightening. "He's bluffing." "Is he?" She looked at Khalid, really looked. "What's the passphrase?" He told her. Her fingers flew over her own device. Seconds later, her shoulders sagged. "It's real." The bearded man raised his pistol. The woman lifted a hand. "Wait." She turned to Khalid. "You just bought yourself a lifeline, but lifelines have knots." They drove back into the yard, past the mosque trailer where the muezzin was beginning Isha prayer. In the site office, fluorescent lights buzzed over blueprints and coffee stains. The woman, her name was Layla, he learned, plugged the drive into a laptop. The drone carrier schematics filled the screen. "Who's behind it?" he asked. "Doesn't matter," Layla said. "What matters is leverage." She typed rapidly. "I work for a consortium that wants this project dead, quietly. You're going to help us. Or the next swim has weights." He laughed, a dry sound. "I weld steel for a living. What do I know about espionage?" "You know this yard," she said. "Every rivet, every blind spot. And you have a clean record. Perfect cover." Over the next week, Khalid became a ghost in his own life. By day, he welded hull plates, bantered with the Filipinos, brought dates to Marwa whose name was Marwa. By night, he mapped security cameras, copied access codes, planted bugs in the Port Authority trailers. Layla's team moved like smoke, new faces every time, instructions delivered via burner phones left in his locker. The consortium wanted proof of illegality, bribes, smuggled components, crew manifests with mercenary names. Khalid found it in fragments, A crate marked machinery parts that weighed wrong. A night shift where Eastern European engineers spoke Russian over satellite phones. A ledger in Jassim's office with payments to a Cayman's account. Each discovery tightened the noose. Jassim grew suspicious, asking pointed questions about overtime. Marwa noticed Khalid's jumpiness, the way he flinched at sudden noises. "You're not sleeping," she said one afternoon, pressing a paper cup of karak into her hand. He wanted to tell her everything, but the words stuck behind his teeth. The breaking point came on a Thursday, humidity thick as syrup. Khalid was sent to inspect a weld on the drone carrier's mock-up deck, his first time aboard the prototype. The ship was sleeker than the blueprint suggested, matte black paint drinking the light. In the control room, he found a monitor cycling through drone footage. Reefs near Surbu Nair, oil platforms off Qatar, the Strait of Hormuz choked with tankers. A voice behind him. "Curious, Habibi?" Jassim, pistol in hand. Khalid's mouth went dry. "Just doing my job." "Your job ended when you stole that drive." Jassim's eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. "I vouched for you, my own sister's son." "Then why?" Khalid asked. "The money?" Jassim laughed bitterly. "Money? This is about survival. The Gulf is changing. Iran, the Houthis, the Americans pulling out. Someone has to protect our waters. Private doesn't mean illegal." "It means unaccountable," Khalid said. "You're building an army no one voted for." Jassim raised the pistol. "Step away from the console." Khalid's hand brushed the fire alarm lever. He yanked it. Klaxons wailed. Sprinklers hissed. In the chaos, he dove through the hatch, down the companionway. Jassim's shout echoed behind him. The deck tilted as emergency protocols engaged. Crew members ran past, shouting in multiple languages. Khalid reached the engine room, slammed the hatch, wedged a spanner through the wheel. His phone buzzed. "Lila. Extraction point. Crane 14, now." He climbed the internal ladders, lungs burning. The ship was evacuating. No one noticed one more worker in coveralls. On the main deck, floodlights swept the chaos. He sprinted for the gangway, leapt to the quay. Crane 14 loomed ahead, its hook swaying gently. A black Zodiac waited in the shadow of the piles. Lila waved him aboard. As the boat pulled away, the drone carrier burned behind them. Not literally, but the sprinklers had shorted the control systems, drones crashing into bulkheads like metal birds. Alarms Dopplered into the night. In the boat, Lila handed him a satellite phone. "Call your journalist. Tell them to release the files." He hesitated. "And then?" "Then you disappear. New name, new country. The consortium owes you." The Zodiac cut through the black water, Musaffah's lights receding. Khalid looked back once. The shipyard cranes stood silhouetted against the stars, patient giants. He thought of the welds he'd laid, perfect beads of molten steel cooling into permanence. Some things couldn't be undone. But some things could be rewritten. 6 months later, a man named Karim Al-Youssef checked into a hostel in Valparaiso, Chile. He had a new passport, a welding certification from a technical college in Santiago, and a bank account with enough to start over. The news from the Gulf was fragmented. A corruption scandal, a shipyard project canceled, his uncle Jassim retired to a farm in Al Ain with no visitors. Sometimes, at night, Karim dreamed of the smell of hot iron and cardamom. He dreamed of Marwa's smile, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when nervous. He never found out what happened to her. Some stories end mid-sentence. In the hostel common room, a TV played Al Jazeera. A reporter stood in front of the Musaffah yard, now under new management. "Transparency reforms," she said. "Worker safety initiatives." Karim muted the sound. He picked up his phone, opened a blank email, typed a single line to an address he'd memorized. "The welds hold. Send my regards to the Gulf." He hit send, then deleted the app. Outside, the Pacific crashed against the breakwater, steady as a heartbeat. Tomorrow, he'd apply for a job on a container ship bound for Australia. Steel is steel, anywhere in the world. And some fires, once kindled, never quite go out.